When I first opened the wedding photo folder and saw how many files were missing, my heart dropped. Not because I lost some random vacation shots, but because these were memories I'd waited my whole life to capture. The kiss, the walk down the aisle. The way my wife looked at me like I was the only man in the world gone. At first, I thought it was a technical error. I'm a professional photographer. I've seen corrupted files before. But the deletion pattern was strange. Very specific, only photos where I appeared alone with Lisa. My wife had vanished. And then I remembered something. 2 days after the wedding, my mother-in-law had come by unannounced, said she wanted to drop off some food. She stayed in the living room while I went out for a quick errand. But when I came back, my laptop had moved. That's when I knew something wasn't right and I had to find out the truth. So I set a trap, and what I caught on camera changed everything. If you've ever felt like someone in your own family was working against you, this story is for you. Because sometimes the most powerful revenge is letting someone expose themselves and letting the truth speak louder than any outburst ever could. My name's Ryan Mitchell. I'm 32 years old and I've been a professional photographer in Chicago for nearly a decade. I've shot everything: weddings, fashion editorials, even crime scenes back in my early freelance days. But nothing meant more to me than documenting my own wedding day, not just as a photographer, but as a man who'd finally found someone worth building a life with. Lisa and I met during a charity event I was hired to shoot. She was helping coordinate volunteers, multitasking like a machine clipboard, in one hand, phone in the other, and still somehow managing to comfort a crying kid in the corner. I snapped a candid of her that day, still have it framed on my desk. She was the most grounded, warm, and quietly fierce woman I'd ever met. And when we started dating, it didn't take long to know this was it. She was the one. Now, Lisa's family came from a different world than mine. Her mother, Patricia, was old school, status-focused and polite in that way that felt just a little off. The kind of person who compliments your shirt, then follows it up with, "Well, at least you don't look like you live out of your car today." Every time we met, she made sure to remind me in subtle ways that I was just a photographer, that her daughter could have done better. Lisa always defended me, always stood by me. She'd roll her eyes and laugh it off, tell me not to take it personally. But I did. I noticed the way Patricia would smile tightly whenever I held Lisa's hand. How she never once posted our engagement photo, but gushed over Lisa's ex-boyfriend online, like he was some kind of Kennedy. Still, I told myself, this is just how mothers are. Protective, picky. She'll come around eventually. When Lisa and I started planning the wedding, we agreed on one thing. We didn't want anything huge or performative, just a small, intimate ceremony with close family and friends. I offered to set up the photo equipment myself, remote setups, interval shots, backups on site, but I asked one of my trusted second shooters, Danny, to help coordinate everything while I was in front of the lens. Everything went off beautifully. The weather held. Lisa looked like a dream. Even Patricia surprisingly seemed in good spirits that day, smiling for photos, chatting with guests, even hugging me at one point. I thought maybe we were finally turning a corner. After the honeymoon, I came back energized, ready to edit the photos and relive it all frame by frame. But when I opened my hard drive, I noticed something strange. Some of the most important folders were light, much lighter than they should have been. I clicked through, then again, then searched manually. The more I looked, the more I realized entire sequences were missing. Gone the ones with Lisa and me exchanging vows. The photo of me tearing up when I saw her walk down the aisle. The moment we shared under the fairy lights, alone thinking nobody was watching. Those weren't corrupted. They weren't misfiled. They had been removed, and something in my gut whispered, this wasn't an accident. Especially when I checked the activity logs and saw that the files had been accessed during a very specific window. When Lisa and I weren't home, only one person had been in the house during that time, and she brought over banana bread, like nothing had happened. Patricia. Now here's the thing about being a photographer. You learn to pay attention to details most people miss. A smudge on a lens, a subject's reflection in glass, a shift in lighting that ruins the whole composition. So when I saw that file log showing recent deletions, I didn't panic. I got focused because I knew someone had been in my system, and that someone wasn't tech savvy. They didn't know how metadata works. They didn't know about shadow backups, and they definitely didn't know I had everything mirrored to a secondary drive locked in my office cabinet. Still, it wasn't just about recovering the files. This was about trust, about someone sabotaging something sacred. This wasn't a business project. It was my wedding, my memories, my marriage. Lisa noticed I was acting distant. She asked what was wrong. I told her I was dealing with a technical hiccup. Half-truth, I didn't want to accuse her mom without proof, and honestly, I wasn't sure how Lisa would even take it. Patricia always played the doting mother around her, a master manipulator, really charming to your face, and then behind closed doors, a whole different person. So I set up a small 4K security camera in my office. Nothing obvious, tucked behind a bookshelf, wide angle, no audio, just video. It was triggered by movement and uploaded to a private cloud. 2 days later, Lisa went to a late client meeting. I got a text from Patricia. "Hey, sweetie, just dropped off some zucchini muffins at your door. Figured you two could use a snack." I played it cool. Texted back a quick thanks, then waited. When I got home, the muffins were sitting on the counter. Laptop closed, nothing seemed out of place until I checked the footage. There she was, clear as day. Patricia walked into my office like she owned the place. Opened the laptop, plugged in a USB, paused, then started deleting files methodically. She was scanning the thumbnails, selecting images, and dragging them to trash, like she was clearing spam mail. Her face didn't show rage, it was calm. Calculated, like she was taking out the trash. And then she emptied the trash bin. Like she'd done it before, I stared at the footage in silence. Not angry, not shocked, just hollow. Like a part of me had been ripped out. She didn't just delete pictures. She tried to erase me from my own wedding, from the moments I was supposed to share with my wife forever. I thought about confronting her right then and there, marching to her house, showing her the footage, demanding an apology. But something in me said, don't let her walk into her own reflection. Let her face the damage she caused. Not from your words, but from the evidence of what she tried to destroy. I didn't want a screaming match. I didn't want drama. I wanted clarity. I wanted truth, and I wanted Patricia to see exactly what she almost took away in front of everyone. So I started planning a second wedding photo viewing just for family, a special screening, I called it. Patricia included, and this time she wouldn't be able to hide behind fake smiles, because the photos she tried to bury, they were coming back big, bright, and undeniable. In the days leading up to the second viewing, I barely slept. I wasn't nervous. I was conflicted. Part of me wanted Patricia to feel the full weight of what she'd done, to squirm, to break, to apologize in front of everyone. But another part of me, a quieter part, just wanted peace. I wanted closure without chaos. I wanted my wife to see the truth without her world crumbling in the process. So I curated the slideshow carefully, chronologically, every moment, every frame, every emotion, this time with all the missing photos restored. The ones Patricia had tried to delete front and center. The kiss, the first look, the private forehead touch moment where Lisa whispered, "You're home to me." That one hurt most to think about losing. But it was back, and now it had a new meaning. I sent out invites like it was a casual family catch-up. "Come by Saturday evening," I wrote Lisa, "and I are putting together a little viewing party, photos, snacks, drinks." I didn't tell Lisa the full reason. Not yet. I just said I had a surprise. When the day came, the living room was set like a theater. Dim lights, projector ready. Seats arranged. Soft jazz in the background. Everyone showed up. Lisa's dad, her cousins, a couple aunts, and Patricia, wearing pearls and perfume, carrying a tray of lemon squares like nothing was wrong. She gave me that usual polished smile, the kind that said, "Let's pretend we like each other, shall we?" I nodded politely, played the part, then I hit play. The first 20 minutes were smooth laughs, a few sniffles. Lisa leaned into me, holding my hand. She whispered, "You did such a beautiful job." Then the sequence shifted. Up came the photos I knew. Patricia had tried to erase one by one. Crisp, alive, full of love. Ryan and Lisa in golden light. Ryan brushing a tear from Lisa's cheek. Ryan laughing with Lisa under the tree where they first kissed. I watched Patricia out of the corner of my eye. Her smile tightened. Her hands gripped the armrests. She shifted, crossed her legs, then uncrossed them. pressed her lips into a line, and then right before the final shot, the one where I kissed Lisa's hand, as she looked at me like I'd hung the moon, I paused the slideshow and I spoke. I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight. I began, my voice steady. I also want to thank whoever tried to delete these photos, because they reminded me why I always back up everything. The room went quiet. Lisa looked at me confused. I continued. These were almost gone. Erased, not by accident but on purpose. Luckily, I had backups and a security camera. I didn't name names, I didn't have to. Patricia's face flushed. She didn't speak, didn't make eye contact, didn't even blink. I finished the slideshow, let the images speak for themselves. Afterward, people clapped. They hugged Lisa. They told me I was lucky to have her. But no one hugged Patricia. No one even asked for a lemon square. That night, as people filtered out, Patricia stayed behind. She stood near the doorway, holding her purse like a shield. And finally, she spoke. I never meant to hurt you, she said, voice small. I didn't want to lose my daughter. I looked her in the eyes and replied, you almost lost her anyway, and I meant every word. After Patricia left that night, Lisa turned to me with a look I'll never forget. Not angry, not betrayed, just stunned, she asked quietly. Was it really her? I didn't dodge the question. I showed her the security footage. We sat in silence as the video played. Patricia, her own mother, deleting our memories like they were garbage files. Lisa covered her mouth. Tears welled in her eyes. I kept hoping I was wrong, she whispered. I knew she wasn't thrilled about us, but I never thought she'd go that far. I pulled her close. None of this is your fault, and you didn't lose those memories. We still have them because we fought for them. She cried that night in my arms, not just because of the betrayal, but because a piece of her childhood cracked right down the center. The next day, Patricia called. Her voice trembled. She asked to speak to me in person. Alone, I agreed. We met at a quiet cafe not far from the lake. She was already seated when I arrived, hands folded, face drawn. There was no small talk. She went straight to it. I was wrong, she said, eyes fixed on the table. I didn't think you were good enough for Lisa, and that fear turned into resentment. I told myself I was protecting her, but I was just trying to control her. She wiped her eyes but kept her voice firm. When I saw those pictures of the two of you, so in love, so happy, something ugly rose up in me, and I did something unforgivable. I let her speak. She admitted everything. The sneaking in, the USB, the feeling of power followed by instant regret. She said she expected me to explode, to threaten her, to cut her out completely. But the viewing night, that silent exposure, as she called it, it humbled her more than any shouting match ever could. I saw myself through your eyes, she said, and I didn't like what I saw. Then she looked at me for the first time that morning. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to earn your trust back. If you'll let me, I took a breath. Let the weight of everything settle between us. You don't need to earn my trust, I said, but you do need to respect our boundaries. Lisa and I are a team. If you want to be part of our lives, you have to treat us that way. She nodded. No defensiveness, no excuses, just truth. And from that moment, something shifted. Patricia didn't magically become warm and fuzzy overnight, but she stepped back. She listened more. She stopped trying to be in control of every conversation, every moment, every decision. A few weeks later, she sent Lisa and me a letter. Inside was a thumb drive on it, a digital album, our wedding photos, every single one organized, captioned, arranged beautifully. Even the ones she'd deleted. The first image in the sequence. Me tearing up as Lisa walked toward me. The caption read, I almost missed the most beautiful part. That was the moment I knew we'd turned a page. It didn't erase the damage, but it acknowledged it, owned it. And sometimes that's the only real apology that matters. 3 months after that cafe meeting, Lisa and I threw a small barbecue in our backyard. Nothing fancy, just family. A few close friends, music playing low from the patio speaker. It was the first time Patricia had been over since the incident. She brought a bowl of her famous potato salad and a quiet kind of humility I hadn't seen in her before. She didn't dominate conversations, didn't offer passive-aggressive digs. She even complimented my homemade ribs twice. Later that evening, as twilight settled in, Lisa and I pulled out the projector screen again. We hadn't planned on showing the wedding slideshow, but her cousin asked, "Hey, can we see those photos again?" They were incredible. I looked at Lisa. She nodded, so we played them, every single one. No one in the crowd knew what had happened months earlier, but Patricia did. And this time, instead of shifting uncomfortably in her seat, she leaned forward, eyes misty, watching the memories she once tried to erase come to life, frame by frame. I caught her glancing at Lisa, not with resentment or fear, but with something closer to gratitude, maybe even pride. After everyone had left Lisa, and I sat on the back steps under the string lights, she rested her head on my shoulder and whispered, "I never told you this, but when I saw those missing photos, I thought maybe we'd never get them back. Not just the files, the feelings. The magic of that day." I kissed her forehead. "You can't delete love lists. Not when it's real." She smiled through her tears. A few days later, I got an email from Patricia. No subject line, no long explanation, just 2 sentences. "Thank you for letting the pictures speak for themselves. They taught me more than any argument ever could." She attached one image of photo I hadn't edited or posted before. It was Lisa and me, mid-laugh faces, sun-kissed, completely unaware of the camera. It had been taken by my second shooter, Danny, a spontaneous frame I'd overlooked, but Patricia had found it in the backup files I'd given her. She titled it, "The Moment I Realized I Was Wrong." Now, I'm not saying everything became perfect after that. There were still awkward dinners, still moments where I had to breathe through gritted teeth, but something had fundamentally changed, not just in Patricia. In me too. I stopped trying to win her approval, stopped performing for a seat at a table I didn't need to beg for. Instead, I chose presence over proving, I chose boundaries over bitterness, and I chose to let my work, my art, be the mirror that showed someone their own reflection. Lisa once told me, "You handled that better than I ever could have." Maybe, or maybe, it was just years of learning that some people won't hear you when you shout, but they might just see you when you show them what they tried to destroy and how it didn't work. Not because you fought louder, but because you were prepared, patient, and unshakably true to what mattered. The photos lived, the love remained, and Patricia, she changed. Maybe not overnight, maybe not forever, but enough, and sometimes enough is everything. Looking back, I realize now, this wasn't just a story about wedding photos. It was a story about control, about insecurity, about what happens when fear dresses itself up as love, and how easy it is for someone to confuse sabotage with protection. Patricia didn't try to destroy those photos because she hated me. She did it because, in some twisted way, she thought she was protecting her daughter from disappointment, from the unknown, from me. But what she didn't realize was that I'd spent my whole life capturing truth through a lens, and the truth always comes out. Eventually, I'm glad I didn't yell, didn't slam doors or threaten revenge, because in that silence, in that deliberate exposure, she saw herself more clearly than she ever would have through my anger. And I learned something important too, that sometimes the most powerful way to hold someone accountable is to let the weight of their own actions speak louder than anything you could say. You don't have to fight fire with fire. You can fight it with light, with clarity, with patience. I still keep a copy of that deleted photo, the one Patricia renamed, on my studio wall. Not just because it's a beautiful shot, but because it reminds me that even when people try to erase you, they can't. Not if you know your worth. Not if you keep the backup. Not if you stand your ground without losing your grace. So here's what I'd say to anyone who feels like they're being quietly erased from family, from relationships, from moments that should be yours. Document everything. Protect your peace, and trust that the truth, like good light, always finds its way back. Reflection. Sometimes the best revenge isn't loud. It's letting someone see what they tried to ruin still standing. Engagement question. If someone close to you tried to sabotage your most precious memory, would you confront them directly or let them face the truth on their own? Comment below. Like and subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. This is Revenge with Max, and this time, the backup files told the story.